Hello and welcome to my channel. So I keep a inspiration journal, or whenever I do meditation, sometimes I get ideas that come to me and I write them down or draw little pictures in my notebook so that I can come back to them. And since today I decided to do some videos, I just went back to my notebook to get some ideas on what to do. So here's one that I'm going to do: a discharged two-color spiral and leave some black lines in there that kind of connect the two sides of the t-shirt together. So what I'm going to do to start with is draw myself a line, and I'm using a dry erase crayon. I found these on Amazon. I don't have the box around here. Anyways, just look up dry erase crayon, and I'll try to remember to put a link down in the box. Anyways, they wash out just with a regular hot wash in the washer, so that's why it's convenient, and they draw on the black tees. So I'm just going to draw a diagonal line just for my own references here, and so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. And I'm just going from the bottom corner of the shirt up to the shoulder up here. So this is a 4XT, so I need to move my yardstick just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to do a spiral kind of in the middle area of the chest. So I'm going to put a little line right there, and I want my spiral to be about, let's see, 12 inches. Yeah, so we'll do 6 here. So I'm going to put a couple extra little marks on here just to mark out just over 12 inches on the spiral. And there's the center of it. So now we're going to pinch that center spot where we put the spiral, and we're going to twist it. And as we twist it, I'm keeping my line visible here because I want to twist just to the point of these two lines here that I marked out. Okay, so now those two lines have come right up to the spiral here. So there's one line here and one line there. So right at the outer edge of the spiral. And now what I'm going to do is pleat these other two straight lines. And we're going to go right through the middle of that spiral then. So keeping your spiral intact there, you're going to want to pleat this line here. And I'm being careful to, as I gather this here, I am just moving towards the spiral instead of pulling it this way because I don't want to pull the spiral out there. So, and I want to get right up, and here is that crossed line. So that's going to be the last one. I'll push that right up against the spiral, and I'm going to grab this whole thing and turn the t-shirt around so that I can pleat the same way on the other side while keeping all of that intact. So there's my cross line that I made, so we're going to pleat right up to that, right at the edge of the spiral, the same way. And then that brings that right up. There's that line of the spiral, so I'm just bringing that right up there. And I'm lining this line up even with that other one. What I'm wanting to do is tie the two pleated lines plus go right across the spiral with the sinew. So now I'm just going to kind of adjust my spiral line just a little bit Make sure my pleats are nice. There's my sinew. And sometimes it's nice to, when you have a bigger tie like this, to put a slip knot in so that you can really cinch that down. If you try to wrap it around a few times and pull, sometimes it's harder when you have this much t-shirt. If I'm doing just a little piece, it's easy to wrap that around and tighten it. And the way that I tie slip knots is I have the long end over here on my right hand side, the short end, the end of the sinew on this side, and I'm going to pinch that end, make a loop, and then I'm going to take the long end that's coming from the sinew, wrap that around just one time, and then I'm poking it through the hole there. And then holding down here and the long line, I'm going to take that loop that I just poked through and pull it up, and that knot just tightens right there. And then if I pull the long end, it gets tight. If I pull the short end, it gets bigger. So there's the basic slip knot. And now from there, I can broaden this out as big as I need it, just to make it easier to pull it over top of the t-shirt. So I'm just going to kind of squish the t-shirt up a little bit. Pull this, slide this right under, and if you put the sinew flat down on the table, it should just slide right under there. And now I can line it up right there and pull my slack out. So now here is my line that I drew with the washable crayon, and on the other side, so I'm just lining my sinew up right along that line. And then holding this flat down, I am slowly taking some of this tension out just to kind of gather that together more. And I pull some more out. You can do some of that with just your hand, but then at some point it's easier to pull that out using your sinew dowel or whatever you have your sinew wrapped on. At this point, I'm going to flip it around just so I have a better angle on it. I'm going to wrap this around 3 times, and then I'm going to pull it really tight. So I'm just lining my sinew up back in its same place here, and you can even take that tail that you had there and trim it a little shorter and just tuck it right into that same line there. So wrap that around and just keep lining that up in the same place. So there's, I think that was my 3 times. And then I hold this down just to make sure that things don't buckle up on me while I'm pulling with my sinew dowel here. And when I'm pulling, I'm making sure to kind of pull straight away so that if by chance the sinew breaks, my arm is just going to go back behind me. If you pull the sinew like this here, if it breaks, that's coming up to your face, and you don't want that, or you don't want it coming right back at your chest. So it's just a matter of turning your body sideways a little bit, just for the good ergonomics, but also for the chance, because sinew does break. This is a 70-pound test, but when you're pulling these things really tight, you can break that sinew. So I'll wrap it around a couple more times there, and then I pull it tight again. And sometimes getting the sinew short in length right there, rolling it up more close to the t-shirt, just gives you a little bit more range for pulling on the tightness here. And like I say, holding down on this, so I'm pushing down here as I'm pulling here, helps keep this from buckling up. So now that's tied nice and tightly around there. That should block off the dye from coming out of the shirt in the spiral and along the 2 pleat lines here. The rest of the shirt should discharge, because I'm just going to kind of leave it loose. But I'm going to wrap it a couple more times and pull it tight just to be sure. I want to make sure I have a nice black line under there. So having multiple layers of sinew does help that. Okay. And now, just because I like to have fun, I'm going to scrunch some of this and put a couple more ties in. But you could just put this in your basin and discharge and you would get more coming out. But I want to leave a little bit of black in both sides of the t-shirt as well as down the middle here. So, like I say, that's up to you how you want to finish these edges off. But I want a little bit of texture in there, a little bit of contrast. So I just kind of scrunched it up randomly and then just tie a couple sinews or wraps and pull it tight, and that was just going to block a little bit of extra dye from coming out. I'm not pulling it as tight as I pulled this first one, but just semi-tight is going to block some of this dye. So cut that one, and I'm going to do the same thing over here on this other side. So now that is ready. Here on this side you can see that spiral squished up a little bit more there. Anyways, we're going to stuff that in the basin. And like I say, my favorite way to remove color in most instances, like I say, sometimes the decolorant or the RIT works better, but most times I like the Out White Bright. It's just found in the bleach aisle in your department stores. But I can just poke that down in there. Pour some of this over top. You do want to be cautious of the dust coming up. Like I say, you either work outside, you work in front of an open window, but I don't like to stick my face right over top where I'm going to be breathing those dusts in. And oh, I guess I need to heat some water. The other thing I do is I use boiling water, and once again, the boiling water, you don't want to get those fumes up in your face. So as you're pouring, I usually stand back off to the side, and I'm either outside or I have a fan on to pull all of the fumes outside. So stay tuned, you'll see me in about 2 seconds. Okay, so the water is now boiling, and now it's time to pour it on here. And like I say, you want to make sure that you're not breathing these fumes or getting them in your eyes. So I always make sure that I'm standing back from the basin when I'm pouring this so that the steam can rise up and away from me. And like I say, I work in front of an open window or I do this outside. And I'm just pouring this gently. I don't like to splash it either, because then you also risk, you know, getting burned by the splashing boiling water. And the boiling water just seems to be what activates it. So you just want to take extra precautions as you're working to not get the steam or the hot water splashed on you. So once I get that kind of done, then I'm just going to slosh that around a little bit and let that sit down in there for more of the color to come out. But I'm going to leave this sit in here for about 20 minutes now. I'll probably flip it over one more time. But usually if you slosh the water around good to make sure that it's fully saturated in there, about 20 minutes is a good time frame. But you can kind of judge on your own as you let it go. So hang out for another couple seconds and we'll be back. Okay, so this tea has been sitting for probably 20 minutes or so. I don't think any more color is going to come out of this, so it's time to rinse this. It's still hot, so I always start with cold water first, and then just rinse it really good with cold water. And at this point, you can untie everything if you like, but I want to dye it with this center tie still in there. I'm going to open up the side ones, but the middle one I want to leave it just because that's how I want it tied when I dye it. But once you get this rinsed somewhat, then you can pull off whatever sinew that you don't want. Like I say, there are times where I will go ahead and pull all of the sinew off. Oh, and that's the one that I want to leave. But I'll pull it all off and then rinse it and wash it. And then you can tie it back up and dye it. But sometimes it's best to leave the sinew on, because then the dyeing comes out better, and that's what I'm wanting for this other one, this design here. But I just wanted to see how much color with this loose tie we did on the scrunch. How much of that, yeah, see, so that left some nice texture in there. So that's what I wanted, was just a little bit of black left in there, and not a whole lot. And then, like I say, we're going to have this bit right under the sinew there. So this also then allows me to rinse it better, having it partially untied. All of that color that comes out, that's all the dye that's been broken down by the out white bright and whatever process that is. But I try to get as much of that out as possible. So I will rinse it good in the sink like this to start with, and then if you spin it out in the washing machine, that will also spin out a lot of that excess chemical there. And this is one where it doesn't matter if your washer sprays water, because a little extra water spraying through there on the spin cycle is only going to just help rinse this more. But I try to get as much of that out so that I don't take a chance that any of those chemicals are going to interfere with the dyeing process, because I want my colors to still be nice and bright. Anyways, so we're going to go with this. I'm going to spin out the excess so it's barely damp, and then I'm going to re-scrunch this up, and then we'll get this dyed. So stay tuned. Okay, so I got this rinsed out really good, and then I spun it out in the washer, and that just really helps pull more of the chemicals out. This is the side that was towards the basin, and you can see just a little bit of color here. That's just the excess chemicals that came out. But if this was really brown, then I would do more of a rinse out, because I would know that that's the excess chemicals in there. So I like to make sure that when I do the spin out that it has more of a tan color there than the darker brown that you see coming out during the process. And the spin out just really helps get more of that out, although you want to make sure to rinse your washing machine before you use it. I don't know that that stuff would do anything other than discolor the water, but I always do a good rinse on my washing machine after I'm done doing any of the chemical processes with the t-shirts. Sorry, a bottle just fell off my shelf. So I think that's a good point to make. Make sure you do a good rinse out of your washing machine. Anyways, so like I say, I left this sinew in there because I want the t-shirt tied up on that line. I'm going to have a black line under there, spiral with two black lines that divide the shirt in half. And the spiral, it's going to be kind of an interlinking spiral like that, where the two lines link together, kind of like a hook. And then I'm going to have a little bit of a black scrunch on the outer edge here. I'm going to dye this in two different colors. So I'm going to scrunch up each side and have it ready for dyeing then. And then, like I say, I'll just dye each side a different color. And like I say, it's going to give me that little hook joining, and then the other two lines are going to be diagonal out from the t-shirt, out from the spiral, are going to go out to the bottom corner of the t-shirt and up to the shoulder area. Yeah, right on the shoulder seam there, close to it. Anyways, I've rambled enough. I know some of you guys like it and some of you don't, so sometimes you just have to fast forward or put me on silent. You can do what you want. I'm just here to help wherever I can. Okay, that one is ready for dye now also. So we're going to get some gloves on and I'll be back to put some color on this thing. Thank you for watching. Peace. Okay, we're back to dye this spiral hook that I was talking about. The center is going to be a hook in the spirals like this, and the rest of it is in scrunch. And I decided the color palette I want to use for this is Fire and Ice. So on here on this side you can't see the spiral here quite in the middle, but on the other side you can see more of that spiral there. So my plan is, as I lay my Fire and Ice colors on here, the base on the fire side, let's see, I'm going to do the fire side on the bottom and the ice side on the top. So that's what I'm doing now, is just arranging. I can see the collar up here, so I know this is the top of my T, this is the bottom. So what I'm going to do for my Fire and Ice colors is, fire for me is going to be fuchsia, deep orange, and lemon yellow. Each color is going to go on in succession. I'm going to put the yellow on first because it's the lightest, and then I'm going to go over top with the orange and then sprinkle some the fuchsia over top of that. That's going to be my Fire and Ice. Scrunch, I'm just going to layer the colors. Like I said, dye the whole side, this whole thing yellow, and then sprinkle orange, and then sprinkle fuchsia. And the other one, I'm going to do the light turquoise that I mixed up, and then I'm going to put bluebird, and then I'm going to put deep purple. So just 3 colors on each side here. So we're just going to go into super speed mode here. Okay, there's the Fire and Ice spiral hook scrunch. How many names can I put in it? Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have fun when I do some of these experimental videos. I'll be getting to some other ones soon also, but for now, peace, love, light, and laughter. You guys have a great day. Like and share my videos wherever you want. Okay, one last hippie Christmas here. So this one is the Discharged Fire and Ice hook spiral or something. I don't know what to call it. It's a spiral hook that connects them together. So we got our hook and then Fire and Ice. Anyways, we'll get this rinsed. You'll see the results in about 2 seconds.